Hello everyone and welcome to St John's Families Online. Well, this is our last time together for a little while because next Sunday is Easter Sunday and our 11 o'clock live stream service on YouTube is going to be an all-age celebration. So I hope that you will join me there as we just do just that, celebrate Easter together. Well, today we are thinking about the last of our statements that Jesus said about himself that all begin with those little words, I am. And today's I am statement can be found in John chapter 11. And in some versions of the Bible, it includes a word that is quite long and quite difficult to spell. And that word is resurrection. And so it's helpful for us to know what that means, and particularly as we think ahead to Easter, because actually that's a word that we probably hear quite a lot when we hear the Easter story. And a version of the Bible that I really like reading from, the Contemporary English version, because I find it easier to understand, I think is helpful in how it describes the word resurrection. So John 11 verse 25 in the CV is, I am the one who raises the dead to life. Everyone who has faith in me will live even if they die. And in the NIV, that's I am the resurrection and the life. So resurrection is bringing someone back to life. Someone who was dead being brought back to life. Now, you probably know enough about the Easter story to know that Jesus died and came back to life 3 days later. So he was resurrected. And in today's story, we're going to hear about another resurrection. Well, today's story actually involves quite a lot of emotions. And so I think it would be good if you could make some little faces like my ones that I'm about to show you. And then what you're going to do is, while I'm telling the story, you can hold these faces up, either for how you feel about the story or how you think people in the story are feeling. So the first one you're going to need is sad. Now, you can draw a better face than mine, this one that I've drawn, but here is my sad face. So you're going to need to draw 3 faces, and the first one is sad. And then, do you think you can draw a happy face? It doesn't need to look like my one. It doesn't need to look like an emoji, but can you draw a happy face? And then last of all, can you draw a face that looks confused? I was going to try and do this one, but can you draw a confused face? And so you're going to need a happy face, a sad face and a confused face. And later on, I'll tell you how we're going to use them. So why don't you press pause on me and draw your faces? And while you're doing that, why don't you have a chat about anything that you can think of in nature that is a bit like resurrection. Now, it won't be completely like that, in something being dead and coming back to life. But how about, can you think of anything that is maybe asleep and comes back to life, or hibernates and becomes something else and comes back to life? Why don't you have a think about that while you draw your faces and then press play on me again. I wonder what examples you thought of that are similar to resurrection that we find in nature. Maybe you chatted about a caterpillar that goes into a cocoon and then comes out and has an amazing new life as a butterfly. Or maybe you thought of a seed which stays forever as just a dry seed, but when it's given the right conditions of some nice soil and some water, and it's made nice and cozy and warm, it grows into an incredible plant. Well, they're kind of like the similar idea of resurrection, this idea of coming back to life. Of course, they're not quite the same because they weren't dead, but they're as close as we can get. But in today's story, we're going to hear about someone who was completely dead and came back to life. And hopefully you've got your 3 pictures ready of your 3 different faces. And I'd encourage you to hold them up either when you're feeling happy, sad or confused, but also when you think about the people who were there in the story. How are they feeling? Are they feeling sad? Are they feeling confused? Are they feeling happy? And you might want to pause as the story goes on and have a chat about how you think people were feeling or how you're feeling, or you might want to leave that to the end. So if you've got your 3 faces ready, let's make a start. So Jesus was busy teaching people about God and doing some amazing things when one day he got a really urgent message from some good friends of his, Mary and Martha. And in the urgent message, they told him that Lazarus, who was also a really close friend of Jesus's, was really ill and that they didn't expect him to live much longer. I guess they were sending him that message because they wanted him to come and to help Lazarus get better. But actually, I think probably I would hold up my confused face at this moment, because actually, to everybody's surprise and confusion, that's not what Jesus did. Instead, Jesus said Lazarus's illness is not going to end in death. And then he chose to stay where he was for the next 2 days. And after those 2 days, he started to travel to Bethany, which is where Mary and Martha lived. And when he got to Bethany, he found out that Lazarus had indeed died. And actually Lazarus had been buried in his tomb, which is a bit like the tomb that Jesus was later buried in, with a stone with a big rock in front of it. And Lazarus had been buried 4 days ago. Well, when Martha heard that Jesus had arrived, she came out of her house and she came to Jesus and she said to Jesus, if you had come earlier, then Lazarus would still be alive. He wouldn't have died. And Jesus said to her, your brother will live again. Now Martha had been following Jesus for a little while, and so she knew and believed that Jesus was the Son of God. And she also knew that the teaching was that everyone who has died, who believes in Jesus, will come back to life when he comes to the earth again. And so Martha said to him, well, I believe that you are the Son of God, and I believe that Lazarus will come back to life at the end of all time. But Jesus said to her, I am the one who raises the dead back to life. Everyone who has faith in me will live forever, even if they die. And Martha said that she believed that. I don't think she necessarily knew quite what Jesus had planned. Well, Martha went and got her sister, who was still in the house, Mary, and Mary came out to see Jesus. And when Jesus saw how upset Mary was and how upset everybody who'd gathered to be with them was, Jesus became really upset. And it says in the Bible that Jesus cried with them. And he asked them to take him to Lazarus's tomb. And when they got to Lazarus's tomb, Jesus asked them to roll the stone away. Well, Martha said to Jesus, remember, he's been in there for 4 days. He is gonna smell. It's gonna smell in there. Are you really sure you want to open the tomb? But Jesus insisted, and so they rolled the stone away. And when they'd done that, Jesus then prayed to the Father God. And he said to God, thank you for listening and answering my prayer. Thank you that you always answer my prayers. I wanted the people here to know that you are the one who sent me. And after Jesus finished praying, he then started shouting, "Come out, Lazarus! Come out of the tomb!" I wonder how everybody felt watching that black hole at the front of the tomb. I wonder what they were expecting to happen. Were they expecting anything to happen? Come out, Lazarus! And then that's what happened. Lazarus started walking out of the tomb. And it says he was still dressed in the strips of cloth that they had wrapped his body in when they put him in there. And he was walking out of the tomb alive. Lazarus had been dead, but he was now alive. Jesus had brought Lazarus back to life. And it's really important, actually, this story for us to think about. And it's important because when Jesus died on the cross, we believe that was something important, because we believe that Jesus died to take the punishment for the things that we've done wrong. But actually, sadly, lots of people in Jesus's time were killed on crosses. But because Jesus came back to life 3 days later, that's how we know that not only was Jesus human because he died, but that also he was someone really special who was also God, because he was able to have the power to come back to life. And this story in Lazarus shows us that God had that power as well, because Jesus was able, as God, to bring Lazarus back to life. I think it's an amazing story, and an amazing story that gives us a hint to how incredible it must have felt at Easter when Jesus came back to life. I wonder how Mary and Martha felt at the beginning of that story. What face would you hold up for them? And then how do you think they felt at the end? So why don't you have a chat about how you think different people are feeling? But also, if there's anything in that story that confuses you and you would hold up your confused face, then maybe you can have a chat about those things as well. And you might like to have a go at drawing the picture of Lazarus coming out of the tomb. How would you draw the expression and the emotion on different people's faces who were there? Or maybe you want to have a Google of resurrection buns and try and do some baking and have an amazing to see how the tomb is empty, which is a good one to do for this week for Lazarus' story, but also as something to do next Sunday as well, when we remember Jesus being resurrected. And actually, the other thing I want to encourage you to do is to think about how you together are going to celebrate Jesus being alive. Easter is a really important time for us as followers of Jesus. And we're not able to all be together this year, but actually you together at home can celebrate just as much the fact that Jesus is alive. And why not use this as an opportunity to try and do something special to celebrate Jesus being alive. You might want to make a card, you might want to have a mini party, you might want to make a special bit of food, maybe even a cake or these resurrection buns. Do something to celebrate the fact that Jesus is alive. You might want to sing and dance, and if you do, then I've put some new songs on an Easter playlist on the St John's YouTube page, and so I'd encourage you to go and have a look at that. And maybe as you dance and as you sing, you can celebrate the fact that not only did Lazarus come back to life, but actually so did Jesus, and that means that we can all have life together forever as well.